When did Florida become such a zoo? Florida has always been known for its sunny beaches and warm weather. But did you know it's also becoming a zoo? Monkeys in neighborhoods and massive snakes in backyards. Check out the photo of this monkey on a homeowner's roof in Claremont. The homeowner had no idea this monkey was even on their roof. As a matter of fact, it was a neighbor that filmed it. I found this on the internet on a little news report they did, and they interviewed the owners, and they had no idea monkeys were even living in their neighborhood. So, like I said, here I am at Silver Springs, where these monkeys were originally dumped off by a captain of a riverboat. He thought it would bring more tourists to the area. And so what happened is the monkeys escaped and they started breeding and thriving, and now there's just abundance. And as I'm walking across this bridge, there was a crowd forming, and I looked and took some photos of these monkeys. I spoke with one of the park members here, and they said sometimes they'll see as many as 30 in a group. So they're just literally everywhere. You don't want to walk past them or in case they get startled, because they do carry a lot of diseases. And also you don't even want to like touch the railings because they sit on the railings a lot. Oh my gosh. There's one that just jumped behind me in the trees. I don't think we could see it, just startled me. They're here working on finding out where the monkeys are. I can hear them. Well, that was interesting. I got a little more than I bargained for. I was hoping to come out here and see a monkey. Not only that, I seen a pack of them. I tried to film as much as I could. I talked to the park rangers, and they said, some of the things you don't want to do is show your teeth, like, hey, or direct eye contact. Just clap your hands, make noise, and they should flee. They feel it's pretty safe to continue on this walk. Of course, I'm a little nervous. So now that I know a little more about monkeys, could you imagine waking up in your home and looking out and you see a monkey rummaging through your garbage? The bad thing is they can be aggressive and they do carry diseases. So this is now part of Florida's habitats, monkeys everywhere. And this can pose a problem as they can cause property damage and transfer diseases such as herpes B, which can cause brain damage or rabies. So another contributing factor is exotic pet owners. Many people think it's a great idea to own a snake, a lizard, or even a big cat. And then oftentimes they get too much to handle. So what they do is, since they did grow attached to them, they don't want to, euthanize them, they go ahead and they release them into the wild. And that caused another huge problem with exotic pets everywhere here in Florida. I remember years ago when I was in my mid-20s or early 20s, I came down to visit my aunt who lived in Palm Beach, and her neighbor had just adopted some baby alligators as pets. And I kept thinking, what is going to happen when these baby alligators become full-grown alligators? That's what I'm talking about. Notably is the Burmese python, the snake that ate Florida. This snake has a significant presence down in the Everglades. And a big part of this is they are released into the wild, and they can start breeding as early as 3.5 to 4 years old. And they'll normally lay anywhere between 25 to 50 offspring. So now you have hundreds and hundreds of these, which pose a threat to the natural wildlife. And of course, if they go into the residential areas, it can start, eating small pets easily. The release of these exotic animals has unintentionally turned Florida into a sanctuary of a diverse range of species. Now, another way these exotic animals has been introduced to Florida is the hurricane-induced escapes. What that is oftentimes People that had exotic pets, maybe their home got torn down during a hurricane, they often don't have the time to think, or they're not there, or the room to grab these exotic pets. They get blown over, and many then break free from their cages and escape into the wild. Anywhere in Florida, this can happen. Also, it's been known to happen to pet store owners that host exotic pets. Hurricane comes through, plows through the shop, and now all the pets that were in the shop got blown away as well. So when a hurricane hits, it can cause significant damage in more ways than others, because during the past hurricanes, thousands of animals have been released into the wild, including large snakes and exotic birds. A good example is Hurricane Andrew back in 1992. That was primarily hit down south of Miami area. If you're not familiar with it, that hurricane was something else. It was talked about for many, many years. It took Miami forever to rebuild. Well, that's a lot of homes, a lot of businesses, a lot of exotic pets that all got scattered throughout the state during that hurricane. Then permanently altered Florida's wildlife landscape. Another part of this whole Florida becoming a zoo thing you will notice as a resident, depending where you live, well, truthfully, it could be anywhere. People have woken up and found alligators in their pool. There's been sightings and videos done of alligators even climbing fences. They've learned how to climb fences. Pythons on golf courses, of course, alligators on golf courses as well. That's super popular. It was a very common sight when I lived in Pelican Bay, which is a beautiful golf course community in Daytona Beach. And we would get sightings all the time of alligators on the golf courses, because there's pockets of woods all around in there and bodies of water. It's perfect for alligators. I had a neighbor down the street one time say she was walking out into her garage to close the garage door, I believe, and an alligator was promptly walking into her garage. Whatever reason, she decided to throw the banana that was in her hand, I guess just a reaction, and it got the alligator to turn around and started heading across the street where my other neighbor lived, and said, exactly where was this alligator going? But anyway, I think she got lucky that the alligator decided to turn around on its own, and she didn't have to cause a wrangler or didn't try and bust into her home. If you live in Florida or you've been to Florida and you've encountered any type of animal, please comment below. I would love to hear your stories about it. Then we have pets to pest, the green iguanas. Those primarily live down south, like in Miami area. I remember when my daughter was going to school there, when she went to University of Miami, is when I first realized how bad it was down there. She said she'd be walking on campus and these iguanas would be there. They're like little mini dinosaurs. And then she told me the time one of her friends, it was in our winter months, was sitting on a bench studying. All of a sudden, under a tree, all of a sudden one dropped out of the tree and fell right on her. Because what happens with these iguanas is it hits a certain temperature and they go into like a coma-like state and they freeze. And if they're in a tree or something, they'll just fall over. There was a story I had read or seen or something about a guy, this must be one of the Florida man stories, that he found a bunch in these coma-like states and decided to put them in his car. So he loaded up his car with all these green iguanas that were frozen. Well, with the warmth of the car, of course, then they woke up and started attacking and just wandering all over his car. I don't know how that turned out, but why some people do things, I don't know, Florida man. Well, part of our zoo down here in Florida is we also have beach and ocean wildlife. We have manatees. They're nice to look at, not allowed to touch them. We have places you can go specifically to look at manatees in the wild. We have dolphins, turtles, of course, sharks. And don't be fooled. Well, you probably actually have heard of all the shark attacks here in Florida. I have a friend, as of recent, she loves to go to the beach right across the street from where we live, and they'll go in the water, and she said she was standing there for whatever reason, and all of a sudden a couple sharks were surrounding her. She said she was only up to knee high. They bolted off the beach, but the crazy part is she's gonna go back again. I'm like, no way, that's it, because I already have a fear of these sharks, and because I see all the shark attacks. I wouldn't, if I had one that close to me, I would take it as a red flag and never go back. Sadly, there was a recent shark attack of a 14-year-old boy. I believe he was 14. He was training to become a lifeguard. Jumped in, shark attacked him. So sad. We are also, New Smyrna is known as the shark capital of the world. It's a big surfing place. Sharks love to hang out there. I don't know, whatever reason, they still surf there. So, which some people find okay risking, others don't. There's also the lionfish. A lot of those got released during Hurricane Andrew, and they have a venom that is upsetting the coral reef. So these lionfish primarily reside down in Florida Keys. And there is attempts to try and control it, but as of now, they have not been successful. So we also have our unique wildlife, such as panthers, bobcats, deers, and even coyotes. Again, when I was living in Pelican Bay, I didn't realize it was such a jungle in there, I guess, at the time. I was walking to the mailbox one day, and I'm like, I look over at the golf course, and there's a bit of a hill, and on top of the hill is the woods. And I'm like, that's weird. That looks like a dog coming out of there. Because people just don't let their dogs run free or whatever. And it was heading down, and I'm like, that's no dog, that's a coyote. I quickly went back and researched it. They will hunt in packs, and they usually will sleep in the bushes during the day because I think they're shy or afraid of humans. And so they'll come out primarily at night. So to see one during the day was kind of rare. And what they'll do is, if say you have your dog in the backyard, they'll try and friend it. They're smart animals, I guess. Take it off in their pack with them, and then they attack and kill the dog. It's super sad, but smart. But I guess it's also a way they gotta make a living or earn their food also. So then you have wildlife in your backyard. Now I've already mentioned this in a few, especially when I lived in Pelican Bay with the bobcats, alligators, even river otters. River otters were in Pelican Bay. They were so cute, and they had babies. They were almost like, I think they were playing in the water there. It was an adorable, adorable sight. But a lot of other things you'll see in your backyard is birds. There's 536 species of birds here in Florida alone. Lizards and other small animals are typical as well. And when I refer to small animals, rabbits, squirrels, skunks, bats, armadillos. Armadillos are another one. They can be a problem as well. They're not native to Florida. I believe they're blind. And I had one burrowing under my patio in Pelican Bay. This is probably a big reason I live in a condo on the beach now. I don't have to deal with any of this. But it was burrowing holes under my patio. And what can happen if they burrow enough, then your patio will collapse. And then, of course, that's going to be an expense. Another neat thing about armadillos is when they get startled, they will jump about 3 feet. So my one friend says, oh, that's the animal they commit suicide. I was like, what? Happens they may be crossing the street at night. Headlights come along, and instead of the car being able to drive over the armadillo, it will panic and it'll jump right in front of the car, basically committing suicide. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on the next one.